All right, where we at? Chapter 66, Aeacus. The river god Aesopus, whom some call the son of Oceanus, and Thetheus, some of Poseidon and Pero, others of Zeus and Eurynome, married Metope, daughter of the river Ladon, by whom he had 2 sons and either 12 or 20 daughters. B. Several of these had been carried off and ravished on various occasions by Zeus, Poseidon, or Apollo, and when the youngest, Aegina, twin sister of Thebe, one of Zeus's victims, also disappeared, Aesopus set out in search of her. At Corinth, he learned that Zeus was once again the culprit, went vengefully in pursuit, and found him embracing Aegina in the woods. Zeus, who was unarmed, fled ignominiously through the thickets, and when out of sight, transformed himself into a rock until Aesopus had gone by, whereupon he stole back to Olympus, and from the safety of its ramparts pelted him with thunderbolts. Aesopus still moves slowly from the wounds he then received, and lumps of burned coal are often fetched from his riverbed. C. Having thus disposed of Aegina's father, Zeus conveyed her secretly to the island then called Oenon, or Oenopia, where he lay with her in the form of an eagle or of a flame, and Cupids hovered over their couch, administering the gifts of love. In course of time, Hera discovered that Aegina had borne Zeus a son named Aeacus, and angrily resolved to destroy every inhabitant of Oenon, where he was now king. She introduced a serpent into one of its streams, which befouled the water and hatched out thousands of eggs, so that swarms of serpents went wiggling over the fields into all the other streams and rivers. Thick darkness and a drowsy heat spread across the island, which Aeacus had renamed Aegina, and the pestilential south wind blew for no less than 4 months. Crops and pastures dried up, and famine ensued. But the islanders were chiefly plagued with thirst, and when their wine was exhausted, would crawl to the nearest stream, where they died as they drank its poisonous water. D. Appeals to Zeus were in vain. The emaciated suppliants and their sacrificial beasts fell dead before his very altars, until hardly a single warm-blooded creature remained alive. E. One day, Aeacus' prayers were answered with thunder and lightning. Encouraged by this favorable omen, he begged Zeus to replenish the empty land, giving him as many subjects as there were ants carrying grains of corn up a nearby oak. The tree, sprung from a Dodonian acorn, was sacred to Zeus. At Aeacus' prayer, therefore, it trembled, and a rustling came from its widespread boughs, not caused by any wind. Aeacus, though terrified, did not flee, but repeatedly kissed the tree trunk and the earth beneath it. At night, in a dream, he saw a shower of ants falling to the ground from the sacred oak and springing up as men. When he awoke, he dismissed this as deceitful fantasy, but suddenly his son Telamon called him outside to watch a host of men approaching, and he recognized their faces from his dream. The plague of serpents had vanished, and rain was falling in a steady stream. F. Aeacus, with grateful thanks to Zeus, divided the deserted city and lands among his new people, whom he called Myrmidons, that is, ants, and whose descendants still display an ant-like thrift, patience, and tenacity. Later, these Myrmidians followed Peleus into exile from Aegina and fought beside Achilles and Patroclus at Troy. G. But some say that Achilles' allies, the Myrmidons, were so named in honor of King Myrmidon, whose daughter Eurymedis was seduced by Zeus in the form of an ant, which is why ants are sacred in Thessaly. And others tell of a nymph named Myrmex, who, when her companion Athene invented the plow, boasted that she had made the discovery herself and was turned into an ant as punishment. H. I can't remember how to say it. I looked it up even. Watch. This is how you're supposed to say it.
Aeacus.
Aeacus, who married Endis, and Megara was widely renowned for his piety. And you know what? When I looked it up, it showed me 3 different ways to say it, so I still don't trust it. I don't know, that's why I don't care, because I don't think anyone knows. It's all bullshit. They're all bullshitting. They're making it up as they go. And held in such an honor that men longed to feast their eyes upon him, and the noblest heroes of Sparta and Athens clamored to fight under his command, though he had made Aegina the most difficult of the Aegean islands to approach, surrounding it with sunken rocks and dangerous reefs as a protection against pirates. When all Greece was afflicted with the drought caused by Pelops' murder of Arcadian king Stymphalus, or some say by the Athenians' murder of Androgeus, the Delphic oracle advised the Greeks, as Achaeus, to pray for your delivery. Thereupon every city sent a herald to Achaeus, who ascended from Mount Panhelleneus, the highest peak in his island, robbed as a priest of Zeus. There he sacrificed to the gods and prayed for an end to the drought. His prayer was answered by a loud thunderclap. Clouds obscured the sky, and furious showers of rain soaked the whole land of Greece. He then dedicated a sanctuary to Zeus on Peloponnese, and a cloud settling on the mountain summit has ever since been an unfailing portent of rain. Apollo and Poseidon took Achaeus with them when they built the walls of Troy, knowing that unless a mortal joined in this work, the city would be impregnable and the inhabitants capable of defying the gods. Scarcely had they finished their task when 3 gray-eyed serpents tried to scale the walls. 2 chose the part just completed by the gods, but tumbled down and died. The third, with a cry, rushed at Achaeus' part. Man, how do you say it correctly? Aeacus's, God, what is it? It doesn't look like that. Aeacus's part and forced his way in. Apollo then prophesied that Troy would fall more than once, and that Aeacus's son would be among its captors, both in the 1st and 4th generations, as indeed came to pass in the persons of Telamon and Ajax. Aeacus, Minos, and Rhadamanthus were the 3 of Zeus's sons whom he would have most liked to spare the burden of old age. The fates, however, would not permit this, and Zeus, by graciously accepting their ban, provided the other Olympians with a good example. When Aeacus died, he became one of the 3 judges in Tartarus, where he gives laws to the shades and even called upon to arbitrate quarrels that may arise between the gods. Some add that he keeps the keys of Tartarus, imposes a toll, and checks the ghosts brought down by Hermes against Atropos' invoice. Footers. 1. Asopus' father, ravished by Apollo and Poseidon, will have been colleges of moon priestesses in the Asopus Valley of the northeastern Peloponnese, whose fertile lands were seized by the Aeolians. Aegena's rape seems to record a subsequent Achaean conquest of Philus, a city. It's not Philus, it's Phlius, a city at the headwaters of the Asopus, and an unsuccessful appeal made by their neighbors for military aid from Corinth. Eurynome and Tethys, the names of Asopus' mother, were ancient titles of the moon goddess, and Pero points to Para, a leather bag, and thus to Athene's goatskin aegis, as Aegina also does. 2. The Aeacus myth concerns the conquest of Aegina by Man, why do they put so many consonants together? Phaeacian Myrmidons, whose tribal emblem was an ant. Previously, the island was, it seems, held by goat cult Pelagian, and their hostility towards the invaders is recorded in Hera's poisoning of the streams. According to Strabo, who always looked for reasonable explanations of myths, but seldom looked far enough The soil of Aegina was covered by a layer of stones, and the Aeginetans called themselves Myrmidons because, like ants, they had to excavate before they could till their fields, and because they were troglodytes, period. But the Thessalian legend of Myrmex is a simple myth of origin. The Theosh... No. Phthiotien. I can't say it. Thiotian Myrmidons claim to be autochthonious, as ants are. Wow, autochthonious, as ants are, and showed such loyalty to the laws of their priest, the queen ant, the Zeus's Hellenic representative, who married her to become an honorary ant himself. If Myrmex was fact a title of the mother goddess of northern Greece, she might well claim to have invented the plow, because agriculture had been established by immigrants from Asia Minor before the Hellenes reached Athens. 3. The Theotocian colonists of Aegina later merged their myths with those of Achaean invaders from Phlius on the river Aesopus, and since these Phlians had retained their allegiance to the oak oracle of Dodona, the ants are described as falling from a tree instead of emerging from the ground. 4. The original myth... Hold on, I gotta do... Aeacus will have induced a rainstorm not by the appeal to Zeus, but by some magic of Salmoneus used, his law giving in Tartarus, like that of Minos and Rhadamanthus, suggests that the Aeginetan legal code was adopted in other parts of Greece. It probably applied to commercial rather than criminal law, judging from the general acceptance in classical times of the Aeginetan talent as the standard weight of precious metal. It was of Cretan origin and turned the scales at 100 pounds. Avoirdupois. Sorry I butchered that. Just the way it goes.